Afternoon gang, so we've got another nice meal tonight. We are going to be doing a red cabbage and cashew biryani. So first thing that we're going to do, get your oven on, nice and hot. We're going to heat up our coconut oil in a baking tray to start with. So baking tray, oven nice and hot, and just put that in to melt the oven. While that's warming up, we are going to do some chopping. So get your tea towel at hand. Get a nice sharp knife. I've already prepped some of my stuff so I haven't got to do too much of me watching. So we're going to cut 1/2 of red cabbage. Cut it, it says nice and finely, but I like it chunky, so I'm cutting it chunky. I've got 250 grams of chestnut mushrooms. I've sliced them. 1 white onion. I've sliced that nice and chunky. The only thing that I've finely sliced is my 3 garlic cloves, and what I'm going to do, because I'm not the best at cutting them finely, I'm going to crush those into my baking tray. So I've got my garlic crusher ready, and that's going to be the only thing that I'm not chopping, just because I can't chop it as finely as what I'd like, so I'd use my crusher. So I'm waiting for that to go. I've got my cup of rice ready to add to it later to the meal. I've got my coconut milk ready, I've got my cashew nuts ready, raisins, coriander, spinach, and I've got a vegan free curry paste to add to the flavour. You could have whatever flavour you want. I've got a Balti curry paste. So let's see if that coconut oil has melted or if it's getting warm. It's getting warm, that will do me nicely. So what we're going to do now is crush my garlic into that hot coconut oil, and then I'm going to start adding all my other flavours. So that garlic is crushing in to our pan, and I'm doing 3 garlic cloves with this one. So that's going to add a nice amount of flavour. If you're quite good with the knife at finely chopping it, I'm not the best at fine chopping, so I'm using my crusher. So that's 3 garlic cloves crushed in. Next thing, I'm going to add all those things that I've chopped. So I've got my red cabbage and my chestnut mushrooms and 1 white onion. So that's all going nicely into that tray. Okay, I'm going to make sure that's all in. Now I'm just going to give that a little stir around so that garlic gets passed around and the oil gets passed through all the veg. So try and get everything, a little bit of flavour of that crushed garlic in there, so it looks nice and moist, ready to go back into the oven. And all it's going to do in the oven is just soften the veggies down. So that's our first port of call. We've mixed all that nicely together. I'm going to now place this in the oven for about 10 minutes, just so it's nice and soft. So in that goes, 180 degrees, middle shelf, 10 minutes, and wait for that to soften up nicely. Step 1, done. So for part 2, we're going to take 300 mils of water, and we're just going to add that into a saucepan, and we're going to add a tin of coconut milk. Okay, so the tin of coconut goes in. Make sure you've given that a shake, guys, so it doesn't settle if you've had it for a while in the cupboard. And we're just going to warm that through gently. So get your heating on, and we're just going to mix that together nicely and just warm that through. When that's warmed through, we're going to add to our tray, so we can get this ready now. We're going to add our raisins, cashew nuts and spinach to our tray. So when this is warm, that should have been in for about 10 minutes. We'll check it's soft, and we're going to add those ingredients at that stage. Okay, while that's warming, we're going to add our 1 portion of white rice or brown rice. I've got brown rice. So 1 portion of rice to 2 parts of water. So depending on how many of you are eating lunch or dinner, depends on how much rice that you use. But if you do a decent amount, this can last you for a couple of lunches, a couple of evening meals, and once that's in, we're going to get that rice ready to cook. So the rice is on, our coconut milk and water is bubbling away nearly, and we just want to warm this through gently. We don't really want to boil it, we just want to get it to a nice warm temperature. So let that heat away nicely. So if it does start to boil, just turn the temperature down, and we just want to get this nice and warm. Right, so we've just come to check on everything. The rice is simmering away lovely, and we're just going to check our veg is nice and soft, for which it is. So now the veg is coming along nicely, I'm going to add in some of our curry paste. Okay, so we're going to add, depending on how much you want to stick in, I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of my balti paste. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so I've added in 4 teaspoons of the balti paste, and I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of curry powder, and I'm also going to add in our cashew nuts. Add a good load of cashew nuts because this is going to be a nice protein source for us. I'll probably 4 handfuls will be added in there, and then for a bit of sweetness I'm going to add 2 handfuls of raisins or sultanas, whichever you fancy. So cashew nuts in, sultanas in, and the curry paste in, and we're just going to mix all that together now. Oh, and the curry powder we've added in as well. You could add anything you fancy to this dish. You could add some other green veg, some green beans, anything that takes your fancy, but this is just a nice simple dish. So once all them flavours have blended in together, I'm just going to put that in the oven for another 5 minutes, and then when all the water has boiled in my rice, I'm going to add the rice and the warm coconut milk and water to this. So really the rice is going to be part done. So this is going in for another 5 minutes, and the rice is going to be hopefully part done. Just make sure it's not burning or boiling over. That's it, just keep that nicely in the background. The coconut milk is pretty much how I want it now, just nice and warm and ready to be tipped over all that goodness that's in the oven. Perfect. That's it, 5 minutes have passed now, so those paste juices have all been mixing nicely with our cashew nut, red cabbage, white onion, chestnut mushroom, raisins. That smells delicious. So now what we're going to do is just add in our rice. So all the water has kind of evaporated from the rice, so I'm going to add that into our dish, and this is going to make it that lovely kind of biryani type meal. Just mixing that rice in so it's all nicely in together, all covered over, and we're just going to add the spinach, some coriander, and then the milk. So just make sure all that's covered over nicely. Perfect, so that's everything in. Small piece of coriander, I'm not the biggest fan of coriander, so I'll just put a couple of pieces in just for a bit of extra flavour, and a handful of our spinach can go in as well. So I'm going to place a handful of spinach in, and then we're just going to add in that warm coconut milk over the top, and then we're just going to mix that all in together. Now the reason why I part-boiled the rice was just to help it along its way, so it will cook a bit better. The brown rice does take that little bit longer. If you use white rice, you could probably get away with just putting it in fresh, but the brown rice I've just added so it's a little bit cooked through to start with. So now everything is covered over lovely. The milk is covering every part of our dish, and now we're just going to put that into the oven again for probably another 10-15 minutes. We'll come and check on it halfway through, and that should be absolutely beautiful. Enjoy. And after a further 15 minutes, that's our cashew, mushroom and red cabbage biryani done. Looks lovely. So what I will probably serve with that now is some mango chutney, maybe get some ice gem lettuce and just put that in the ice gem lettuce. If you're not that bothered about the calories of a white bread, you could add some pittas or naan breads, but that is lovely on its own. Enjoy that dinner, guys, that's great.